And there was already conversations back then about this hire potentially being problematic. It becomes official the middle of May 15. Feels like a long time ago. I said middle of May like it wasn't a week ago.
Yeah, right.
And Michigan doesn't announce it. You know, there's going to be a lot of questions we have that we're never going to get answers on. Yeah. One of mine is Michigan not announcing it. That was, looking back on it, odd to me. That felt like maybe they didn't want to draw attention to it for different reasons, whatever. So he announces it himself a couple days later on his Twitter, and it doesn't take long for folks to get into his likes and see some things that are, again, problematic. You wrote your column today. We've been talking about it, some things we wanted to say. Obviously it's Saturday. Was it Saturday or Sunday now? I don't even remember. You and I both basically got a note at the same time that he was resigning.
Sunday? See, this is just like time.
It's been a weird thing. So whatever it was this weekend, you and I both got a note at the same time from someone that we heard he was resigning. We texted each other, reached out, got our confirms, and ran the story that he was resigning. And then Michigan put out a statement, I don't know, half hour later, something like that, confirming it. At that point, his Twitter account was gone, deleted.
Yeah.
And before that, he had erased 2,000 likes, roughly. And you still only had to scroll back to January, right? So I've been rambling a bit. You wrote a really good column today, folks that haven't seen it, michigan.rivals.com. Josh has his column up on this whole situation. So I will let you say what you want to say after I've rambled long enough now.
Yeah. I mean, this is just a colossal failure on Michigan's part. You know, this is the colossal failure institutionally, in the athletic department. It's just a situation that should have never happened in the first place. Like, this hire should have never have happened. It's not like this was being held in secret since March. Those likes were there. And I even take it from problematic. I'd even take that word and bump it up to vile. You're talking about racist tweets, blatantly racist tweets. There's not like thinly veiled racism. This is blatant racism, transphobic tweets, just the whole gamut of ugly, disgusting stuff that doesn't help the rhetoric that particularly comes from Twitter. I mean, that it is a vocal minority, but they are extremely mouthy on Twitter. And it's not like these were secret leaked stuff. I mean, this was, I guess, hiding in plain sight. And, the fact that no one bothered to vet it, or even said, this might not be a good idea. It's a bad look. It's a colossal failure from the top down. It's just not a good thing. There should be some accountability held for that, to let this process go on as long as it did. I don't think it's bad all around. And this just draws the opinion of freedom of speech, the right to free thought. There's a difference between giving yourself a right to free speech and spouting off and magnifying racist rhetoric, transphobic rhetoric, all that kind of negative stuff that doesn't belong in our world. I don't, that doesn't give you a pass. It doesn't give anyone a free pass. I don't care if your last name's Schembechler. I don't care what your last name is. It doesn't give anyone a free pass to magnify those kind of views. Now, those views were magnified and mixed in politically. This isn't a political issue. Racism isn't a left or right issue. This isn't, if you're racist and you support racist views, you're not labeled on one side of the fence. You're just a bad person, and you can't, that kind of rhetoric, you can't support that. You can't harbor that. And the fact that if they Michigan would have just hoped this blew over or hoped this went away, you're harboring someone who has that kind of thought process. Who knows what's being said behind closed doors? You're liking this stuff. You're magnifying it So it's just a really, I hate to even call it unfortunate, because it's just so totally avoidable that, this didn't have to happen.
Yeah.
But yet it's another black eye on something they just can't seem to not trip over themselves. And I'm talking about Michigan. They just can't seem to get out of their own way. And, this is a situation that never should have happened. Again, I support people's right for free speech. I support people that believe, beliefs that are different than mine. But what I won't support is people who believe in racism, believe in transphobia, believe in all of that kind of stuff that goes against everything. That it's just, no, I don't support it. So, again, saying that, giving him the chance to resign and all that stuff, this isn't Michigan doing a good job. It's, Michigan never not getting to this point. Should have never gotten to this point. So it's an unfortunate, again, I hate saying it's an unfortunate situation, because all of it could have been avoided. But it is what it is. It's another misstep in a long line of missteps that could have been avoided. But yeah, there is a big difference between, having an opinion and, going against what we should be doing as a humanity and as a people. So that's what I'll say about that. I've said my piece, and I think, I hope to never speak of this topic again.
No, I understand, man. I think you've addressed the context really well. I think something that I can say, not out of context, but not talking about the very specific context for a moment, in regards to the free speech and things like that. That became a professional account as soon as he put his Michigan title on there.
Yep.
And used that account for pushing Michigan messages, retweeting things about messages or Michigan, talking to recruits, right? When you go into the likes, and it's like, you see, I don't want to say any of the players' names because I just don't want it mingled in there, but you see a recruit and then you see something vile, right? And then you see a recruit, right? I've never held a job. This one, I've worked for a very large company. I'm not going to say their name, but I have worked for a very large company. I've worked for my dad's company. I've worked for small companies. In the last 10 to 15 years, I've never not signed something that basically says social media, public, whatever. When you're representing this company, you need to represent this company, right? Yep. So he is still welcome to say and do everything he wants. That has not been prevented here. But Michigan, the University of Michigan, cannot be associated with those things, with their initiatives. I mean, I'll say it plainly. He's recruiting predominantly black players, right? He's talking about education being used as a tool to convert children to other just different things. He's working for a university saying that education should be defunded. Like, you can't do it. You just can't. So if you're somebody who holds, and again, the politics line's been blurred. I think politics on both sides has become very volatile. So there were some posts that maybe if you're on the other side politically feel terrible to you, and then if you agree with them, don't seem as bad. Like you said, that's not what all of them were. There was vile racist stuff. But if you do agree with him on a lot of stuff politically, again, that's fine. But you got to understand why he can't mix that stuff with his job.
Right.
At minimum. And I don't want to get into the statement he put out through the PR firm. I know why he got a PR firm involved and blah, blah, blah. I'm not trying to pick on the dude. But instead of apologizing for clicking things a few times, which he seemed to suggest, he really focused on the Jim Crow tweet specifically. I wish he just would have said, you know what? I have been sucked into this, right? I didn't even realize how consumed I've become with this until this wasn't Donovan Edwards. who retweeted something, quickly deleted it again, whether he didn't fully understand what he retweeted or somebody right away was like, dude, that's terrible, whatever. There's a pattern. Again, he erased almost 2,000 tweets back to January. That's 12 tweets a day. That's a lot, right? If he would have come out and said, man, I need to reflect. I didn't realize how deep I had gotten into this. I think I would have appreciated that more. I don't want to pat Michigan on the back for handling this quickly. I don't want to pat, I know, Harbaugh was involved in this. Mm-hmm. and I know he obviously loves Shemy, and I don't blame him for that. And I know he handled this from a good place in his heart. And I know he's going to hope good things for Shemy and that he finds a better path out of this. And that's what I hope for anybody. I don't want to send anybody to exile or ostracize them or whatever. I hope something better comes out of this. But yeah, from a Michigan perspective, man, we'll never know the answer, but did you have a blind spot because of his last name? Did somebody know and not want to tell Jim because maybe they were scared of how he might react, whatever? There's something operationally that keeps happening in this program. And at this school, there was a report today about with the grad student strike that Michigan is filling out fake grades, just weird little mistakes, man. And maybe some of this is the after effects of the previous president, and Ono has a lot of work he still needs to do. I think he's been very positive since he's been here.
We're talking about the Michigan president, by the way.
Yes.
They want to be clear.
I didn't even realize the context that I said that. President. Sorry. Yeah, President Ono's come in. He's done a really good job. Maybe there's more he's got to do. Whatever.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. Sorry. Yeah. This is why we shouldn't talk about the and honestly, that's kind of the point, right? You stated what you said very well, and your column was really good. And I felt sick seeing some things, and there's some things I'm passionate about. But man, we like covering sports. Mm-hmm. And it would just be really, really nice if these kind of things didn't keep happening, because if I ignore it, I'm not doing my job, and I don't care what people think. But when you see the criticism of Michigan people holding Michigan accountable, they're right. I can't ignore it, but I don't like talking about it, man. I just don't. So some things are not preventable and things happen and you have to deal with them. And some things are just so damn preventable.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to talk about uncomfortable things, but the only way we're going to be able to move forward is to talk about the uncomfortable, is to be uncomfortable with the uncomfortable. You're not going to make any progress if you keep staying in your little box and not doing anything and not getting out of it.
And that is the best part about freedom of speech, man.
Right.
That's the best part about it.
Right.
Yeah. It's and that's why I've said that before too. Like, and I went to college at a time where like I've seen very controversial people speak, right? And sometimes it's difficult, but those conversations are really important. So that's why I hate using the term both sides. I do understand kind of this push from both ways, but also sometimes this is how people get exposed, right? By being allowed to speak freely. And sometimes this is how people learn about themselves too. Sometimes you don't really know what you're doing or saying until you're confronted. And that's why I said, I know he put out the PR apology that he did. I hope there's some self-reflection, because he did say, and I know somebody specifically who knows Shemy and is friends of him, blah, blah, blah. Right. But yeah, from a Michigan perspective, just figure this out, man. It's the easy stuff.
Yeah.